All right. It says we're live stream with Mandy from Body Language Ghost. I got to make sure which camera I'm looking into, not that one. Okay. Mandy, thank you very much for doing this.
Oh, no problems.
And
no problem.
We're going to see what we'll let people trickle in. Let's just see if we can get some comments in the comment section to let us know that we are live and audio works well for me. Mandy, your audio is good?
Yeah, I hear you fine.
Okay, awesome.
Although I always worry about YouTube because it's like, oh, how long is this going to last?
So it's funny because I was quoting some, not Billy Madison with somebody in the comment section before, and they went one line further than me in the movie. And then I said, slow down before we get demonetized, before we actually get started or shut down. We were quoting the scene, if you remember Billy Madison, where the old man was putting out the poop with his, the flaming bag of poop with his foot. Okay, best movie ever. We're live. We're up to, looks like we're at 186 people now. And we say, hello there, late unsubbing. Okay, I don't know if that's a joke. Did I just see Jeremy? Let me see something. Jeremy A. Knight, welcome from Texas. Okay, good. Audio's good. So while people trickle in, and incidentally, if everybody's watching now, share the link on social so we can get people joining the party. It sometimes takes a little while to get notifications, if ever. I just got my own notification, so I know that they should be working. This is Mandy from Body Language Ghost. I suspect everybody who's going to be in tonight knows you very well, and I suspect some of them know you and don't know me. So we'll see how this goes. Okay, Mandy, I'll explain the rules because there are no rules. I'm going to address and get to all super chat questions, and if I forget one, someone please remind me because I get very obsessed and feel guilty if I miss a super chat, and I don't mean to disrespect anybody who does the super chat. I'm going to try to do the super chats sort of in blocks so that we can, have our dialogue and it won't interfere too much, but try to get to the super chat questions. I will get to the super chat questions. I have only not vetted any questions with Mandy. I just make sure that certain topics are not off limits because this is explorative. This is intended to be fun. I'm not here to embarrass anybody, and I'm not here to put anyone in an uncomfortable spot. So I just make sure certain topics are not off limits, and if they are, or they get too much, if we get too close, Mandy's going to tell me, and we'll move on to another subject.
Yes, I will. I will tell you.
Mandy does not look shy, and certainly based on her assessments, she speaks her mind. So I'm not nervous about that. But that's basically the setup. I don't run the questions by because I like everything to be natural and for the first time, so that I can react, the way I think is organic or naturally without anticipating answers. Is that dinner in the background? There are no. Oh well. Okay, so I'm going to try not to read too many of the comments in the comment section because that'll derail me quickly.
That's just a tray. I think he's talking about mine.
Okay, so I got
it's just a tray, no, it's fruit.
The background. I showed Mandy what my studio setup looks like, but I'm not going to show anybody at the very least during this live stream. But I might post a picture to Twitter. Okay, so we're 3 minutes in. I think we've let everyone who's going to come now, and the ladies will show up later. Okay, Mandy, you did the podcast with Eric Hunley a little while ago. Mm-hmm. And I flipped that in the community tab to everybody. So whoever whoever watched that or listened to that might hear some of the same questions. But so let's start from the beginning. If I can ask, you're American?
Yes, I'm American.
And like sibling wise, how many, first question I always ask, how many kids in your family?
Oh, I just have 2 sisters.
Okay. And are you still in communication with them?
One of them, one is crazy. I don't talk to her at all because it just get to the point where you realize that these people, they do more damage than they are good to have around. And my other sister, she's in Oklahoma where I left her. It was just too hot. I moved to be closer to her, and it was just, well, this is not really my style. I don't like to boil in the summer or freeze in the winter, Oklahoma. And I wanted to get away from people in general because at that time it was, I trust Trump, but at the same time, it's like the writing's on the wall as far as people getting very aggravated. And I have my own views of how things will go. I just wanted to be in a safer area, in my opinion, anyways. Okay,
very interesting. And when you say hot, you mean physical temperature and not?
Oh, I'm talking physical temperature, okay. 3 digits.
I've never been to Oklahoma.
Go naked.
Okay, that's very interesting. So you three, and what's like the age range on your siblings between you and
Oh,
the other two?
we were close. My middle sister, we're only 18 months apart, and my youngest sister, we're 3 years apart, so we're not that far of a spread. And her and I, we actually enjoy the pen paling. We like the old fashioned send letters back and forth. I mean, if it's an emergency or some news that we want out quickly, we'll text or call each other. But we're the old fashioned send a nice long letter. How's everything going?
And born and raised in Oklahoma.
No, been in many states. Most of the years of my youth were in Virginia. And then I had another good chunk of years in Ohio and a few years in Kentucky. And then my adult life, mostly in Tennessee, some in Virginia.
And
then Oklahoma was only 2 years.
Is the moving because parents in the military or parents in the government?
Just dumb parents.
Okay.
That's how they were.
Okay, so that's very interesting. Now, okay, so I know this from the Hunley podcast, and this is the last time I'm going to say that I know the information from Hunley. But for those who haven't listened to it, incidentally, give it a listen. If you haven't listened to it, it's an hour long and it's good. Everybody's dying to know. It's on your website, but your education, like formal education, is what?
I went to university in Ohio, and I didn't go to Jim Jordan's. I went to Ohio University. And then from there, I went to Virginia because I wanted to be a police officer, because at that time, it was like I was struggling. School was hard. It was money coming out of the pocket. I wanted a quick fix. And the Norfolk Police Department was hiring. So I got a job with the Norfolk Police Department. Then I got medically discharged, I guess. Yeah, technically it's a medical discharge, but I got medically discharged. And then went back to school, got into nursing, and then eventually got into this.
Okay. And if I can pry on the medically discharged, because was it physical or psychological?
Oh, no, not psychological. For the test that I did, I was mentally stable to join that one.
Okay.
It was 6 months of test to get into that one.
Okay. No, it's interesting because we're going to get into it a little later, and then I guess we're going to come back to it, a little later as well.
Well, I say medically discharged because I had gotten an infection, and it makes me feel kind of angry at that part of my life because it kicked me out. But it feels like, it's one of those things that doesn't stick around. It's like, could I have suffered through it? You understand what I'm saying? And then to be like, oh, I could have gone back to that. Instead, I just went back to school.
Okay. We got our first super chat, and it's a good time. We're in between two questions. Mandatory carry, thank you very much. At work, can't stay, but I'll watch between rounds. Keep fighting. P.S. Please check Facebook PMs. Okay, will do. Thank you very much, mandatory carry. Okay, so you go to be a police officer, and then after that, and how old are you when you go to do that? You're like early 20s?
Yeah, gosh. Oh my goodness, I was above drinking age. I remember that much. It's been a long time. I want to say I was 22, 23. I was young.
And now I'm going to ask the question that I know I'm not supposed to ask. I'll ask for a bracket. What age bracket are you in now? How
I don't care. I'm old now. I'll be 43 this year. I'm old.
Anyway, you look incidentally, you look very young. Just it may be it's the camera, but 43, you are still actually young. So that is officially young. I say that as a 40-year-old, so I want to put myself in the same young but old bracket. So you go to be a police officer, you get discharged, and then you go to study what?
Nursing. I started out because it was my interest. I love science, and I liked the microbiology. I thought, I love the biologies, and I like the microbiology. So I started diving into that. It's like, I really enjoy this. And then because of the schooling before, I realized, I got to pay for all this because, I was a young, dumb kid. I got to pay for all of this. So I need a job that's going to pay back all this money that I keep borrowing. So I was like, so I had to narrow that down. So I was like, medical technologist. And for those who do not know what medical technologists are, they are the people that all the labs you send, they're the ones testing it to find out what disease you have, what cell, whatever's going on, everything. And that's what I was training to do. And then, I found out that half my credits didn't apply because it was more of a more focused field. So I was like, oh, and the money keeps coming in. And then nursing was like the quick, easy, because most of my credits applied. And that's what I ended up doing.
Okay, very interesting. That's fantastic. Now I'm going to bring this up. Bird of Prey. Why are you interrogating your guest? It's very difficult to tell if it's sarcasm or tongue in cheek or serious. I may ask too many questions. I like getting to know someone to understand someone, and you have to ask the questions. If they don't want to answer them, that's a different issue, and they're free not to answer them. But it's nice to
I could do like Giuliani and just talk over you.
Well, you could do that, and you know what? If I ask one too many questions or they're too personal, you're not shy. You'll tell me. But it's good to get to know somebody, and this is how you get to do it. So it's an interrogation. Maybe we want to understand the person. I want to understand Mandy and actually understand how she got to where she is, and you need to know someone's past or history for that. Thank you for the super chat. Okay, so that's it. So you get into nursing, you get your nursing degree, and then you go into actual practice nursing, or you become a nurse.
Yeah, but here in the States, you actually don't have to get a degree. You just can get licensed. And there you go. Off into the Wild West you go. You get a degree, and then you can actually do bigger things in nursing. What's the one? DON, Director of Nursing. Things of that. They're more of a desk work.
Okay, that's interesting. So, but to get into nursing, you have medical training, or what goes?
Oh, you have to have medical training. So that's what I mean by license. So you go to school, you take your school time, okay? You take your internship, okay? And then you can go get your license and apply to get your license, which is a test. That's what you have to do.
Okay. And so the test is it more like physical, how to administer drugs, how to take blood samples, or is it psychological? I mean, is it psychological?
Oh, no. It's just to know that you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
That's pretty much.
Real Bambunga says, ask what she was doing on August 27th, 1997 at 8:03. I'm joking. Well, it'd be really funny if something serious actually happened on August 27th, 1997 at 8:03. That would be something out of Donnie Darko. Real Bambunga, thank you.
It would be like, yeah, I remember exactly what I was doing. I think I was in bed.
So you get your license and you go to become a nurse now. I think I know it was in ER, or was it in?
Oh, no, never ER. I couldn't deal with that. This was more of the rehab and older folks. And I don't want to get too close to that, just for the simple fact that there's HIPAA issues and I've said things and I don't want to be tracked down.
Okay. Totally understand. And incidentally, this is like one of my people not fault me, but ask why I don't mention case references when I talk about my own cases. And I say, like, I never want to give any information that would be remotely sufficient to identify any of the parties, even though it's all public record. Anyhow, someone can Google my name on our lawsuit database and find the cases, but you have issues where I understand, totally understand. But all that says, then your experience as a nurse, how many years did you have as an experience before you got out of the field?
I think it was 2005 or 2006. It was close to that time frame when I actually really started the nursing bit.
Okay.
You're really asking me to pull things out my brain.
No. The purpose of my question, like to understand the time, like how long in terms of, I want to say trauma, but how long in terms of lasting effect on your psyche as a person that experience had?
I don't know. I look at my life more of like moments of awakening is what I look at it. I had my ugly childhood, and then you get into a situation during the school time where you just realize that these people aren't helping, they're hindering and pretty much trying to destroy any good you do to build their own ego. So by the time I got to doing something, I was at that moment where I was mentally free. I was still learning how to deal with people in a way that didn't make me their victim. But I realized then that this is how you have to be. This is freedom.
Okay. And now to get into it, because you mentioned it during Eric's podcast that you had, say, issues, for lack of a better word, as a child, which sort of led you to, reading people, learning how to cope with situations, learning how to react and protect under certain circumstances, depending on the circumstance. If I can ask, were the issues, was the childhood problems, was it from abusive parents? Was it from family? Was it from bullying at school?
Well,
Only in terms of
I'll give you a big handful. And at this point, my stepmother tried to kill me with rat poison. I came down for breakfast and she had made us breakfast, something she never did. And she wasn't a nice woman anyway. And my sister was eating her bowl and she was crying because I was late coming down to breakfast and she's crying. So you instantly know something's up. And my sister won't look at me. So she hands me the bowl and my sister, and she turns to go away. And my sister's going, no, she couldn't talk. So I just started eating. It's like I just get through this bowl and I can go to school and this woman can leave me alone. And then the vomiting started. And I vomited and ended up in an emergency care center because for some strange reason, my body decided to fight back and survive. The only reason I know what she did is because her father told my father what she did, trying to convince my father to leave his own daughter.
Okay, well, that is a dose of information. Your birth mother is where in all of this?
My father kidnapped me to Kentucky. It's not a great story. And she would sit there and talk about, I just remember we'd be in the back of the car driving in between somewhere and there was a bridge. And she said, I'd dump you off, but you idiots would come back. I was sitting there thinking to myself, no, we won't. Please dump us.
Okay, that's what. So what? At what age are you? Do you live with your parents? Do you grow up with your parents? Do you take it into Child Protective Services? Do you leave as young as you can?
No. I guess the best way to do it is, or to explain it. This was close to the summer I turned 9 when she tried to kill us. And then after that, I tried to tell my mother, because they were packing, that we were about to leave. And she wouldn't believe it. She refused to believe that my father would take us from her. So the last weekend that we saw her, was the last weekend I tried to tell her. And of course, that was the last weekend.
All right. And at what age do you leave the house to be free on your own?
I was 18. As soon as I was able, I was out.
Okay. And now, because I want to say interesting almost sounds like a trivializing word or an objectifying word, but it certainly explains how it might explain or at least lend some context to what you're doing now. So your abilities, the ability or the tendency to read people, to look for cues, to know if something bad is about to happen, to know if someone's out there to actually protect you. These are experiences, call it trauma, or experiences that you've had now from the earliest stages of childhood until the time you leave the house.
Right, pretty much, yeah.
Okay, so that is some context That's some context. Okay. Now when you're doing the body language reading on YouTube now, and it's sort of, we'll get into what it is and how people regard it and whatnot, but is there a point in your life where you start to think that you have an uncanny or an ability or a talent to read people and sort of see what they're not telling you?
I didn't think it was special. I fidgered people could do it. It wasn't until later in life where I just kind of looked around because I'm saying, man, you people are dumb. It didn't dawn on me is that they weren't paying attention. It's like, I don't understand how you can't see it. What is wrong with you? That would bothered me. And then I tried to teach the boys. And of course, I already told that story. And that's how I got started on YouTube.
Okay. And for those who are watching that may not have heard Eric Hunley's podcast, you wanted to teach your kids how to read body language. So you go on YouTube, start looking at body language videos. You see a dearth of channels or inadequate information.
Oh, I didn't go look for them. Oh, I did not go look for them. I just decided to do my own because I was trying to teach them just, all right, we're going to look at this video and you guys are going to point stuff out. And they wouldn't, and they couldn't, and they didn't. And I understood because they don't have trauma in life. So they never had to actually look for it. This is why they didn't do it. And I was like, So I'm going to have to teach them, because unless there's that stressor that forces you to do it, you're not going to do it. And since everybody stares at TV all day long, they don't even know what to look for. They look for portrayal in people because they don't understand that's not the real world.
Okay, amazing. Okay, now give me 2. We're going to catch up on super chats, and then we're going to see if anyone. Thunderfight, thank you very much. Okay, just found your channel, Mandy. I love it. Do you believe or know if politicians use body language advisors in their various negotiations?
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure they do. Some of the things that they do just says, yes, we use them either to hide or to convince.
Yeah, but it's a 100% yes to that answer. I mean, they use advisors, they use consultants, they use people to tell them what not to do. I think Bill Clinton had someone tell him to, the thumb out instead of wagging a finger. And I think I missed a bunch of yeah, there's no question. There's definite. I think I missed some super chats. Okay, I'm sorry if I missed a question. I'll get to it in a bit. Great live stream, Viva. Okay, so I can't bring up A Joe's, but great live stream, Viva. My body language is breakfast on me. Hello, Mandy. A Joe is I can't find the actual comment. So that's amazing. Now, when you start doing this with your kids, and I'm going to look for this while we talk. When you start doing this with your kids, they're how old?
Oh wow. Oh wow.
Like teenagers or
yeah,
young?
they were teenagers, and my youngest at that time, YB, I think he was about 4 or 5. Yeah, he wasn't that old. That was the youngest. So the oldest is getting around 15, 16.
And now, okay, this is I guess we're getting into it. So you have this life experience, which brings you have this life experience, which you don't know where you're going in life, but you know that this life experience that you've had has sort of given you this, not given you an ability, but rather you've derived an ability from this experience to detect trouble based on what's not being said, authenticity, all these things. You can read what is being said, but not being said, so to speak. You have your experience in nursing, which you do for however many years, and that's from what I understand, is with the elderly, where you're dealing with a lot of dementia, mental unwellness.
Oh yeah, the mentally ill, quite a bit of those. There's just people that I had a schizophrenic, bipolar, a whole lot of manics, many manics, narcissists, very aggressive, and then one individual, they were getting shock therapy, which it's not like you get a lot of those. It's something that's rarely ever practiced ever, and just to see that mindset in it too, I could say, as far as body language and reading that person, he threw me off because it wasn't something I could relate to anything. Because if you never see it, you then have to learn to read it.
Now, just so we're clear, also the shock therapy is literally the shock therapy that probed on the okay, and when you say like he's showing you things that the question I always ask is like with someone who suffers from some form of schizophrenia, psychoses. The question is, what body language are they actually showing you, in the sense that they're to some extent either unaware or detached? Like, what kind of readings do you get off somebody who? How do you read somebody who's mentally not in what we call reality, or mentally not there?
Well, I think I described it with the unstructured. It's like they're in normal mode as close as they can get with the drugs. And so when you know that the drug isn't working anymore because the body adapts, they start giving signs that the reality world they live in, and we're talking about schizophrenics, isn't what you see. They'll interact with things that aren't there. They'll feel around for items or objects as if something's there but not. Or they'll look at something as if something has their attention and it's just a blank wall. But they're trying to hide it because, 1, they don't want their medication. And 2, they don't want to be drilled again. They want you to believe that either they're taking their medication or they don't need their doses up. You understand?
Yeah, no, it's interesting actually, and I think that one of the more common misconceptions is that when you say body language reading, you're looking for, typically people say, oh, are they telling the truth? Are they lying? Whereas when you're dealing with someone who's mentally ill, it's not a question of deceit, lying, telling the truth, or whatever. It's are they reacting to what they're taking? Are they not taking what they're needing? And are they about to have an episode and how to detect it and how to protect yourself or react or preemptively.
Now, who is the target of their aggression right now? Am I in the mix of their target? And if I'm not, who is?
Very interesting. Okay, amazing. David Rositas, thank you very much. I think I missed some super chat. I apologize in advance. The chat's moving quickly, and I'm in StreamYard, so I don't see it for the entire thing. Okay, so that's so you work in nursing. At some point, you say, I can't deal with this anymore. I need to get out. I need to get out of this and move on, or go into another career because you can't deal with the environment.
It's burnout. It's caregiver burnout. It's pretty much what happened.
Do you know what the burnout rates are? I'm thinking out loud, but like it must be ridiculously high, the amount of people who have to just stop doing it after a decade or so.
I had looked into it at one point, but I couldn't tell you. I just know it's high. And most of the people, if they can't get out, they become very angry, and they need to change patients constantly so that they don't get burnout on the same patient. Because you can give someone leeway because, well, you're new. It's I can give you leeway for being new and not knowing each other. But eventually it wears thin. And in nursing, it can wear thin real fast. And so as long as you keep changing patients, you could usually deal better, longer, but burnout is burnout. And eventually you just can't do it.
And Real Bambuga asks, wouldn't mentally ill people have atypical reactions to any input situations versus others?
I'm not quite sure what they mean.
Well, I think it was sort of the question that I asked earlier is their reactions would be different or atypical, as in not someone who does not suffer from a diagnosable mental illness. But the issue with you is you're looking for their baseline, which is one of a person who suffers from mental illness, and you can see when their behavior is different or when they're
you've got the normal reaction that normal people have. And then you have the atypical, something that's off. There's something, I usually just put it as there's something wrong with that one because that's not normal. And it just blankets them I put them like in this little category. And so we can see someone who is maybe just depressed and they're having behaviors that would say, why are you acting so severely to something that normal person would just brush off? And that would be the end of it. So it would be something to watch and put them in that category of, I'm watching you. And that's all you do. And that's all you can do until, if you have no idea what their background is, that's all you can do. There's something wrong with you. It seems to be this. And as your body language keeps coming out, we'll figure out what it is.
Okay, so amazing. Now, so no formal training on body language reading above and beyond your education, your experience. Do you do a lot of reading on it? Because I watch your videos. You use terminology which I just happen to know is terminology of the field, but you use terminology which sounds technical. Sounds I don't want to say scientific.
I don't mean for it to sound technical. I can tell you. I can tell you it's just normal behavior. This is what's happening. It'd be like, I have a bigger vocabulary than sad and mad. That's all I can say about it.
Okay, so it's phenomenal. So now you start the YouTube channel. So explain to everybody, we're going to get into what happens with it, but the growth. So this is your first time starting a YouTube channel. You start putting up these videos what subject matter are you dealing with in the earliest stages of your channel?
I just did body language. That's all I did. I'd sit there and I don't think I really did much of anything. I think sometimes I'd have like a little commentator on the news, but other than that, I just did body language. And I didn't realize I'd actually picked up a job because honestly, I didn't think anybody would watch. I did one video and I told the kids I wanted them to watch it so that I didn't have to keep repeating myself and then getting frustrated with them in the house. Because that was the whole point. Seriously, that was the whole point of doing it. Just watch the video. I don't have to yell at you. We don't have to have a bad day. That's what it was. And then it was kind of left it alone. I think a week or two went by and I went back and there's these comments. Where are you? Where have you been?
That's the beauty of the internet is when people like your content, I won't say it becomes an expectation, but they get disappointed when you don't give them what they want. Okay,
I had a job.
Israel Torres says, Mandy, have you watched David's videos on body language reading? Do you think they were spot on or not accurate at all? You can be brutally honest, because I do it sort of, I know nothing other than what I think, and I think it's, it's always gut reactions, and to some extent, and we'll get into it. First of all, thank you for the super chat. To some extent, also, I think a large part of it is projection, and that I want to get there, where you tend to see in others what you feel in yourself. But how do you? What would be your assessment? I don't know if you've seen any of my body language videos, but maybe you saw.
No, I watched the Acosta one.
Yeah,
I did watch that. You did very good on that. I was like, oh, that's very good. Somebody who thinks outside the box. It's good.
It was the Acosta was too easy. The only thing is, I don't know if he was genuinely heartbroken or just insulted.
I think it was more insulted, just considering his mentality is just more insulting. But no, I think with body language, you got the body language expert. I hate the word expert because it's given to body language people from the media, or they give it to themselves. It's like, please tell me what school you went to, because I know of no body language reading where you can just go be an expert. That's what irritates me.
Well, so that's that's one issue. First of all, did you see the body language expert on Bernie Sanders on MSNBC? You saw that viral video that went around?
I was an idiot. I think I tweeted that she couldn't even read a fridge note.
Well, someone made a rather astute observation, but I think it was more or less accurate. But she said, "Oh, his answer should have been a no, but the question was a why, so you could not have had a no to the why." Yeah, I mean, I made the comment in my analysis of that video is that experts, even when they're certified, like I don't think there's any body language certification that I know of. I think it is something. I think it's more like an art than a science.
Yeah, I think it's like if you have enough people saying that they respect your work, that's when the experts come in.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's
or either that or you're called to testify as an expert in court, where they have the lie detector readers, but there's no body language experts in court that
no. They got them but more of they're behavioral scientists. They're not actually body language readers. Most of the time when you speak to these people, they're behavioral. That's what they're looking for, behaviors. And I wouldn't really call that a reader, because my problem with those people, and they can disagree, I don't care, but they narrow things down too much. They don't take in enough variables into their reading to see what could be or cannot be going on. And so they say, oh, he's got it like this, so it has to mean this.
Well, it's interesting, actually. Before I forget, we're gonna Real Bambuga. Okay, serious question, Mandy. Have you learned integrated FACS in reading body language?
No.
Do we need to Google what is FACS?
Yeah. I would say no, because I don't know what that is.
Frequently asked questions with a C.
Oh.
No, okay. So that's something that I noticed in a couple of videos. People where I made a joke about how I tick or reflexively look left, and then a lot of comments were saying, "Oh, when someone looks left, it's an indication that they're accessing memory." I don't know why it would be left versus right, but I do. I mean, you can even, having cross-examined, however many people have cross-examined, when someone is trying to fetch a memory, they do have visual movements, eye movements. They do have a reaction when they're legitimately trying to remember something versus when someone. Sorry, I got to get that question off. Versus when someone is lying, and they're not reflexively searching for an answer. They've already had it prepared, so there's no action going on in the brain. So, I mean, is there that thing, like you're looking left, accessing memory, certain telltale fundamentals of the body?
Well, I tell everyone who's ever in my class or whoever does any of the instructional videos, you can never rely on just one tell. If you've got one tell, you better be looking for two others to back up what's going on in that body, because everybody's giving away more than one tell. Everybody. That's what you look for. And that's why it gets irritating when they sit there and go, this means this. Well, really, what's the rest of the body doing besides the fist? He could be cracking his knuckles for all you know.
Yeah. Okay, let's see what we got here. We got Ken North Thunder says, I love both of you both are doing. Keep up the good work. Thank you very much, Ken. Let's see, we got GB. I appreciate the amount of effort you both expend. Videos are thorough and well done and inspiration for sure. Best tips for growing a channel. Well, okay. Mandy, let's get into the growth of the channel and then the destruction of the channel. So you put up your first video. How many views? Do you have any idea, like how many views?
I couldn't tell you. I really couldn't. I don't remember. It was like, I want to say we got to 1,000 and I was just like, oh, wow. Well, I guess we'll do another video. And so I did. And I kind of left that alone because I had other things in my life that I was doing. I was like, oh, I'll do another one. And then it just got, I remember it was like a roller coaster because it wasn't the view counts that I was watching anymore. It was how many subscribers were coming in. And that's what kind of blew me away was the amount of subscribers coming in.
What year was this in? Was this in like the birth stages of YouTube, or is this sort of after YouTube is relatively established?
I think, I believe we're going into our 4th year. So that would be 4 years ago.
4 years ago with the original channel.
Yeah.
Okay. And by the way, I didn't say thank you to GB Kingdom. Thank you very much for the super chat. Okay. So you put up a few videos. Do you remember your first viral video?
Oh,
or
wow.
the first video that got just a shocking amount of views? You're like, holy cows, that's a lot of views.
Oh, wow. I want to say it was Joe Biden. Maybe I'm saying that because that one's actually my favorite, but that's the one that comes to mind. It was also the one they were so wanting to take down.
Okay, we got to get into this now. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, Mandy has had troubles on YouTube. I actually don't even know the full extent of your troubles. I don't even know it. So how many subs did you get up to? Like how many subs did you have on your channel before it was shut down?
I think we were getting close to 300,000. I think we were at 285 or something like that as far as subs. And they started striking some videos, and then I was like, oh well. And not striking like, oh, you're just demonetized, like copyright strikes and taking down and giving me strikes. So I was like, oh, I fixed that. And then a few months later, when that whole Florida incident came through, they took down enough to take me off, to terminate the channel. And then one of the videos that they did was one that I had already contested that they struck. And they struck me again on it, even though they said it was okay.
This is amazing. Okay, I've had a very similar experience where, okay, well, we'll get into that. So Biden, now when they're striking them, are they copyright strikes or are they terms of service violations that you were getting?
It was both. It's like,
okay. And I mean, we've got to ask the legal question. So the copyright strikes are for what? The content you're reviewing was pulled from the source, and they said it's not fair use. Oh, they
yeah.
Okay.
That was one of them, and then it was I was picking on David Hogg. That's
okay, I want to get to that one because now even with because I do want to actually understand or appreciate or break down the distinction versus the copyright strikes and the terms of service violation. So where they take a video down and say it violates the terms of service for bullying or whatever, versus copyright strike being claimed by, I don't want to pick a name because I don't want to get in trouble, but picked by whomever because you used their news bit and you didn't, and they say you used all of it or too much of it. So you get both.
Yeah.
And are they identifying which? They're identifying which sometimes, but I mean that's not necessarily fresh in your memory as to the Joe Biden. Was it copyright or was it making fun of the elderly type thing?
No, I wasn't making fun. Well, that's the one that really got me. It was copyrighted, but it's a C-SPAN. I mean, we're talking government officials. It's like, what? How do you even are allowed to take that down? This is literally watching the government swear in new senators.
I contested one of my claims against on that basis. I said this is public domain. It was the impeachment inquiry hearings. You don't own that just because your particular camera was in the room recording it. It's public domain, and they removed the. It was not struck, but they claimed it. But that was the argument. So that's interesting. So with Joe Biden, and now you have a sharp sense of humor, I would say, or at least you have a biting tongue in terms of observation. So was it the substance? Was it the form? Was it both? Do you know what it was, or you just on your Joe Biden video where you might?
No, they just did copyright on it.
And do you remember
all they did?
Substance-wise, not to look for blame, but maybe even just to look for cause and effect. Did you refer? Were there insulting jokes? Were you making fun of someone who
That one I left all the jokes out because when I did that one mentally, I was like, I want people to actually learn. I know the jokes are fun, but I wanted people to see, and I wanted to point everything out. It wasn't just this is, and the obvious comes out. I wanted to explain everything. This movement into this movement into this movement, just so people would see it and identify it, and they go, "Oh, I know somebody like that." because Joe is not alone.
But there were, I asked these questions, then people sort of accuse me of being an apologist for YouTube in terms of like justifying some of the sanctions that they impose, which it's a no with no but. There were offensive jokes or demeaning jokes. There were jokes that if Joe Biden saw the video, he might not find it funny type jokes in there.
I think the joke that they could possibly take is the title "Creepy Joe Biden."
Okay, well, yeah, that would be one.
That was the title.
Okay. I mean, this is the interesting thing where it's the double standard that exists, where it seems that, some people can get away with calling people anything under the sun and then others cannot. Or rather, you can get away with calling certain people any name under the sun, but you couldn't get away with it with other people. So there's that issue. But so you have the edgy humor aspect of it. You have the observational content. Joe Biden gets a strike, and then it gets removed and then brought back. Was your
that one had a roller coaster in and of itself? That was actually not the one that was removed and then put back and then removed again and said no. It was a paid one. Oh my! I think it was Cocaine Cassie. That's the one I think it was.
Who's Cocaine?
I'm not. She's an Australian girl who flew to South America, one of the countries down there. I want to say it was Colombia, and she was going to smuggle cocaine to, I believe it was the UK, but she's from Australia, and they called her Cocaine Cassie.
And so the video itself, was it a deposition? Was it sort of an interview she gave after getting arrested?
She gave an interview. That pretty much it was just an interview. I can't remember anything else in there. Some of these videos are really old.
No, and especially I don't know how many videos you've put up in the life of your career, but I can only imagine. I mean, I've forgotten some of the videos that I put up, and it's when I remember they're there, it's maybe a little embarrassing sometimes. Dapper Dave 527 says, trying using it for poker with all the books out there. You can call anything a tell, especially when you try to talk micro tells versus macro tells. This is the question. Like even in poker, where Negreanu makes a good call and then it touts his ability to read, and then there's 10 where he made the wrong decision. It's, I don't want to say confirmation bias, but rather, it's people saying, well, people touting the successes and ignoring the failures and then drawing conclusions about their abilities, whereas it might just be random because, like you could have the monkey throwing darts at the board and doing better on the market than the most well-trained day trader. And I missed one here. I'm doing it very bad here. Will Dave. Mandy, because your videos deal with politics and current events, have you been offered encouragement by Trump or the White House?
I was mentioned in Q. That's all I can say. That's about as close as I got to the White House.
Q as in the movement or Q as in GQ?
QAnon. The QAnon, the movement.
Okay. No, it's interesting. Any political subject, you get everybody from both sides of the spectrum. On YouTube, it tends to, my experience on YouTube is it tends to be more of the right than the left that views certain types of stuff. And I think it's just because the left doesn't necessarily watch certain genre of YouTube. But yes, I've seen Q come up as well. Hey Joe, here we go. Viva Frei, eye contact tells more over body language, in my opinion. Does Mandy agree? Curious. And hey Joe, I think I missed your last super chat. If it was you, I saw your avatar. Sorry about that. Mandy, eye contact?
Well, like I said, you always have to have more than one tell. You cannot rely on just one. So I could give you eye contact, but what's the rest of the body doing? Because it may be trying to get away, or it may be trying to lure you in.
Very interesting. That's another thing. So, in one thing versus another, avoiding it's. My impression is that it's your gut reaction based on your life experience and how to apply it, and then the only question as to whether or not you're good or bad at it is whether or not you've been proven right or wrong based on who you have thought was being honest and just found out otherwise versus thought was being dishonest and then you found out otherwise. And which is why I think like just having these life experiences and interactions with people, which is why I've talked a bit about to get into the family stuff to understand, and then you're dealing with your professional life. The more you interact with people, if you're observant and you sort of pay attention to it, you can apply it and you just have to be right often enough to avoid problems.
It just reminds me, when my husband he was my boyfriend at the moment, but I was in England visiting him. Went to this restaurant. It's underneath a bridge, so to speak, and it had 2 tiers. So we were sitting up at the top and we were looking down, and I'm looking down, watching these people. He's like, watching me, watch them. It's like, that's the boss.
Well,
they're on a date.
It's funny.
He's not getting a second one.
No, you absolutely reminded me of like the most important thing. Stand-up comedy is about reading. A good stand-up comic is about reading the body language. And I remember we were at I wasn't there. It was my brothers and my parents were at a stand-up comedy club in New York, and the stand-up comic is doing his bit, and the bill comes to the table with my family, and nobody moves one finger except it was clear who was going to pay the bill, and the comedian made a joke. It's like, we all know who the boss is at that table, because you could read from the dynamic that nobody was lifting a finger to get the bill faster than any other person who doesn't read people for a living would have done it. Okay, Leaf Sandiger, this is for dog treats. Thank you very much. That's good. Actually, my dogs are on an all beef diet, so it's they eat almost better than us. So now you start building up your channel. You start getting into problems with YouTube. After you're getting close to 300,000, your channel's fully monetized at this time?
Yeah, it was fully monetized during that time. It was before they came up with their weird monetizing rules. And then it was just killed and brought back. And that was the end of it.
Okay,
and
so now
let's
the video that gets taken down, you manually review it, or you ask for a manual review, it gets brought back?
It was 3 of them that were taken down. No, all 3 of them. The old one that they said was good before, the David Hogg one. And then it was like some random one they just picked up. And I had this, I think it's on my website. Hold on real quick. Look this up. How fast can the internet work? Not fast at all.
Well, there's minimal lag between us, so it looks like it's pretty good.
Oh, good. It's not that bad.
We got Jeremy Anthony. Good to see you here. He says Mandy's children are not getting anything past her. Well, so while you're looking that up, I'm going to tell a funny anecdote. I have a friend who is a therapist, and our kids play in the same park. And every time I talk to him, I'm sort of, I would say, obviously neurotic. And I'm looking at him, we're talking, and we're trying to have a regular discussion. And I said, I have great difficulty talking to you because I have the impression you're constantly assessing me from a therapist perspective. And it makes it very difficult for me to know what to do with myself while we're talking. But like, you're gonna get to the point where your kids are not going to get anything past you, but you're both going to be sitting there trying to read the other. And it's going to be like a deadlock of people reading each other.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I found the website. It's on PJ Media that did the sadistic YouTube deletes channels, demonetizes and censors content, and refuses to respond to press. Somewhere in this video is the all the videos that were taken down. But yeah, it was really over the David Hogg. I think it was when they were, as far as the US, they were doing the false flags, and I guess I stepped into something they didn't want me to step in, and that was the end of the channel.
And like no demonetization, just a strike. And what is the message you get overnight?
I got emails. Your channel has been terminated for violating YouTube's terms of service. And it was kind of like, and that was kind of the weird part, because I remember correctly, I was getting 2 different emails from 2 different sections of YouTube. It was like their support team on one side that kept giving it back, and then this other YouTube area that kept taking it away. And I was like, this doesn't make no sense. This is weird. And then it was like, I guess the other team won because it didn't come back.
And do you talk to anybody after this? Does anybody get in touch with you, or it's just
nobody talks to me? You just get these generic emails. That's all you get.
Did you try to get on live chat with anyone?
At that time, there was no live chat. They didn't even have an email address.
Wow.
This is, no talkie. Wouldn't even talk to you on Twitter. There's no talkie.
It's amazing. Now I'm going to pull this comment up just because I totally agree with it. Mandy's voice is so relaxing. God damn. I had never. So that's another question, actually. Thanks for reminding me, Andre. When you did your original videos, was it the same format? We never saw your face. We just heard your voice over the video.
Yeah, I just figured I sit there and watched other YouTubes because I watched YouTube. It's the whole thing, that's where I knew YouTube. I watched it, and it was like every time you watch a YouTube channel and you see their face and they're trying to point something out, it's distracting. So I was like, I'll just have it so you can hear my voice and then I'll point it out.
Yeah, you have a particular. I'm looking at some of the comments. You do have a particularly good radio voice and good what's the word? Diction or enunciation.
Oh,
yeah.
Trust me, my husband makes sure that these days you need to repeat this word. Oh God.
Oh well. Now, so I'm pulling this comment up because this is where I think it gets into the issue. Like Mandy's got to do St. Greta Thunberg, and this is call it the silliness of YouTube is that if you touch certain subjects, and I've learned this sort of the hard way, if you touch them, regardless of the manner in which you touch them, you're asking for YouTube to get involved, and depending on the way in which you touch them, once YouTube gets involved, you're looking at varying levels of sanctions. Which is why, with the David Hogg. So explain with the David Hogg. We all know it's the Florida shooting. David Hogg. I know of the circumstances based on. I couldn't find the video, but I know from what I heard in Eric Hundley's podcast. So you do a video and you analyze David Hogg, and one of your observations is that he looks much more mature than all of the other teenagers in the video.
Yeah, he didn't display the characteristics of a teenager. He looked like someone who was well past teenage years. I mean, you can have a mature teenager, and usually, and I say usually, they're going to still have stress from a traumatic moment. That's just normal. That's just the young mind, especially if they're not used to having trauma like that. And supposedly he had gone through trauma, but we don't see any trauma in him. So I was like, there's something wrong with this one. That category of this isn't right. And that's what I did with him.
And
that's all I could do with him because he's in portrayal. He's not really giving away what his motives are. They're not asking the correct questions in order to actually see more. So it's like, there's just something wrong. That's all I can tell you. There's something wrong with this one.
And if I can ask, and this is, again, it's not a question of trying to allocate blame, any humorous jokes at his expense? I mean, is it the substance, or is it the delivery, or is it strictly the substance, do you think, in terms of what you say?
I think for him, because I tread lightly, because he gave the that portrayal, something's wrong. I just said, there's something wrong, and he's acting too mature for someone who supposedly just got out of a trauma situation, and he has no stress. I think that's what I said. Something along those lines, but I could have clipped it clean because it's like, that's a yellow alert.
No, so it's interesting. I mean, I know you can appreciate. I don't understand how they enforce the rules. I mean, I know what the rules are, and I know that they have the new terms of service where there's exceptions for current tragic events in terms of monetization, but in terms of outright strike and then shutting down a channel, you would think that would be reserved for the most egregious of transgressions, so to speak. So, but I mean, I can understand, which is sort of, it ends up dictating or governing what you cover in terms of the subject, because when you're touching on even certain tragic events, and then even more so the prominent figures that come out of that, and even more so when they're minors, it's like a triple whammy of things that are going to put you on the flagged radar. Yeah. And especially then when you're dealing also with potentially mass flagging campaigns, and you have people who just descend onto channels and report them, and then what happens?
Yeah, I suspect that's actually what happened, is that we were descended on. My husband, then boyfriend, it was about 6 months after they shut the channel down that he opened up Body Language Ghost to start uploading there. And then they demonetized that one too, but it's still there, still being able to upload.
If they shut it down overnight, you have no ability to even advise all the people who were all your subs.
Yeah, I had no way. That's why I was very grateful for PJ Media doing the interview and the the article.
And when did so it was called Bombards at the time that gets shut down? When did you start Body Language Ghost?
I think he didn't tell me because he didn't know how I would react.
Well, it's good. It's good. He knows what needs to be done, and he might have to do it in a way that would not get you to say no.
Yeah. And he's like, I didn't want you to be upset. I'm not upset. Good luck. That's all I can say. Good luck.
But so how long has it been up for now? Is it years or is it
Oh no, it's not even. I think it's been up a year now. I think it hasn't been up that long.
is it
No, it has been up at least a year because we were still boyfriend and girlfriend when he opened it up. Maybe a year and a half. Maybe it's going on 2 years.
did you notice you just looked to the left when you were accessing memory to actually access a memory?
Yeah.
Hey, everybody, I might have it. I'll open up my second channel. I'll have Viva MMA and then Viva Body Language. Okay, we'll get into this. So a little over a year, and now you're at how many subs you're at? Oh, why don't I see the number of subs on your channel?
He hides it, Ben.
Okay.
He does it for good reason. He does it, one, because it seems like, well, in his experience that he pays attention to, that the bigger your foot stamp or footprint, whatever,
Yeah.
it seems like the left goes after you more. So he hides it to hide our ability, I guess.
Okay, very good. I mean, it's smart. If I don't want to get you in trouble with anybody, are you sort of commensurate with what you were when they took you down?
Well, we're higher than that now.
Okay, very good. Excellent. Okay, so that's good at the very least. One thing I've noticed, I mean, anybody who knows of the Streisand effect is when they do this to a channel and the general population, who are the people who actually watch the videos, find out, typically they come back stronger, like with Fat Rat. I don't know if you know what happened to him, but someone had asked before, you ever watch Soph? This video is getting demonetized. There's no question about it. But once we're on the subject, Soph, the 14-year-old girl who got booted. From
yes. I have watched her. She's very entertaining.
you had never done a body language reading on her.
Well, all her stuff is choreographed, so it's like watching a dance. If you've actually watched her do her videos, it looks like a dance.
It's a very insightful thing to say as well, because I remember one of the funnier ones that I did was Kevin Spacey when he did his Christmas thing with the cup, and he was cutting the ham about a year ago. And so when I did it, it was sort of not tongue in cheek, but sort of quasi humorous. And everyone's like, dude, he's acting. What the hell do you think your body reading here? Like, you're an idiot. It was definitely choreographed.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see what we got here. We got Dapper Dave. There is a class action suit for affected YouTubers. There is a class action. I don't know. I have to check that out. But
somebody has started it. The problem with it is because I tried to get a lawyer, a constitutional lawyer, to help me with the free speech part of it, and I couldn't get anybody to do it. That was like pulling teeth. Like, come on, nobody wants to go against YouTube.
But you've had a number of people do it now, and I think PragerU had setbacks if they haven't been outright dismissed. The last I checked, they say that it's it's a suck and blow thing where they say it's not freedom of speech because we're a private enterprise, and therefore the freedom of speech issues don't apply. But on the other hand, we want to get certain government legislative immunities. It's crazy. I mean, I'm sure you could have gotten, I want to say Robert Barnes, because there has to be a plausible end game to this. But yeah, it's tough. I mean, everybody says sue, but the reality is it's not just an uphill battle in law. It's a disproportionate battle in finances. Okay, let's see what we've got here. Weird Yoda. Thank you very much. Mandy, do you get meta with body language and change how you present your own body language, or do you let it flow naturally?
Well, I tell you what, I'm not really good at interviews. I usually always tense up, so you'll never actually see it. But as far as people, I always try to present relax. I always try to make them feel at ease because it just makes conversations go much better.
Okay, well, I say I've heard you. I've heard you. I saw your video when you announced what happened to your channel, and I see you now. I think you are genuinely authentic, and you definitely make a calculated effort to be paused, unless you're like this naturally. It seems like you make an effort to actually speak at a judge's pace, is what I'd like to call it, where you want to make sure everybody who's listening understands and digests.
I think when I first started, I don't think I thought that way. With the kids, they understand me. I don't have to pause. But then I realized that, most people don't. And it's like, slow it down and speak real slowly like they're 3.
Yes, that is a skill I might either have to learn. I'm sure I could fake it, but it takes so much damn effort. Barely am here. Oh, I get it. Okay. Says, I compared Lev Parnas to Christine Blasey Ford. Either of you have thoughts? A Democrat false flag, or I watched.
Oh yeah, he's in and out, is how I put it. He's in and out of truth. He takes whatever reality he has, twist it into whatever he believes, and there it is.
I watched that. That was. That's where you realize you don't have to be a body line. You don't have to have any training. You just have to be reasonably astute in your observations of what's natural, what's authentic versus what is inauthentic behavior, responses, and discourse.
Yeah.
Then mix in the politics where you know the realities of certain things and what people have to say in order to get themselves out of certain problems. Okay, let's see here. I missed something. I missed this one here. Maybe I missed 2. Let's go. We'll take some questions while we do this. And then I want to get into the Christine Ford one because that's the one. Is that your most viewed video, the Christine Ford, or was Joe Biden?
I know it is on BitChute because it's right at the top.
It's 3.6 million on YouTube.
I don't think Joe Biden ever got there, just for the simple fact that it was taken down. And I think now, if the YouTube channel was still there, and because he's there, he would have been viewed a whole lot more just because he's running.
Yeah. And you never, I say, don't want to ask for trouble by re-uploading that video, but you put it on BitChute, I imagine?
I think it is on BitChute. I do believe it is on BitChute.
All right, we got here. James Johnson says, Mandy's political commentary is usually broad and deep, beyond headlines or common knowledge, always fascinating and fun. What does she read, or what informs her? Mandy.
I read Twitter.
Did you say I read Twitter?
I read Twitter. Literally. I follow people because I believe, just from my own experience, that people tend to have more information than anybody else. You find those people and where the news is at. If they're in the middle of the news at that moment, I'll follow them until they're not in the news anymore. As far as whatever event has happened, they're no longer in, and then I'll unfollow them. But that's who I follow for the news. I'll be like, that's where the news is at. Let me grab. Like this lady, Based Amy. I'm following her because she's got all the European news and she's got the access to the French of what's going on over there. That's information I'd like to have, so I'll follow that. Other than that, I don't care what people are doing. I don't care what they're eating. I follow Twitter for the news.
No, it's interesting. It's something I say. You see it when you're on the platform. Is that the collective knowledge out there is Twitter is effectively that, coupled with the collective toxicity, or not even collective. It's the collective knowledge coupled with the concentrated toxicity of the world. But it is the place where you get the real news, you get the fake news. But the thing is, when you get the fake news, it gets called out by the collective knowledge pretty quickly, unless you live in a silo. And that's where, not to get...
I'm waiting. I'm glad you say that, because I'm waiting to sit there and see how this coronavirus goes through. Because to me, I'm looking at that going, just from my own learning experience through university, it's like, more people die from the flu. More people get infected by the flu. Do you realize in a normal everyday life, this coronavirus, they call it the common cold?
So I actually did see that tweet from you today. I know there was some not so nice words used in it where you call someone an idiot. It's not the end of the world. But yeah, no, it's like the coronavirus. First of all, the older you live, the more you see how things repeat. I remember the Ebola virus. I remember the avian flu.
Yeah.
Everyone, it was the end of the world every single time. Not to minimize what happened, but Ebola, how many people? 12 people died during the Ebola, which was supposed to kill millions. And now I saw there was one poll on Twitter, like, how many people are going to die in this? 100,000, a million, 10. It's like, dude, how about everyone chill out, because this happens. It comes in cycles, and it's always the same. It's always everyone compares it to Contagion, like that movie that came out. It's always the same thing every single time. But yeah, how many people die from the flu? It's a question of
more people died. I sit there and looked at it. The really bad winter one where 80,000 died over just wintertime, 90-day period. That means it was over 800. I think it was 888 people per day had to die to reach that number.
No, it's For those who don't know what it is, it's Parkinson's law on mundanity. You can talk about the easy thing that's easy to blow out of proportion, but then deal with the complicated one. Nobody wants to talk about it.
Oh my God, I gotta think.
No, it's because the amount of people that die from the flu. There's a number of other issues contributing to it, like not having family, not having systems around to take care of them. It's not saying it's going to blow over, but it's the media rage. It's whatever the media has to do to justify their own existence and to drive traffic. It just drives traffic, and then dealing with the actual problems, it's too complicated. Nobody really cares about it.
I am curious.
Thank you very much.
I am curious about, how China is dealing with this, because there's they are shutting cities down. They're doing things as this, it is a pandemic. So it's like, I wonder what the game plan.
Yeah, but even in China, I do wonder, like the coronavirus, how many people it's killing versus food poisoning. Like
Rats.
Well, so yeah, that's the other beautiful thing. Like that, say beautiful cynically is now I see these videos on Twitter going around. There's one of a woman biting a bat, which I know what people say. I say it has to be fake just because even if you're going to eat a bat, who bites the wing? There's no meat on the wing. Like you would go, I'd go for the torso. I would go for, I don't know, the brains if you're going to eat brains. But
God.
She was biting the wing. Whatever. I have my thoughts on that. But and then there was another one of this guy eating live mice today and dunking them in sauce. Like whatever. It's when these crazes come around, then the misinformation comes out. We're like, oh, dude, this is why it's happening. They're eating mice. Like. And okay, let's see. John O'Brien says, I know this is late. It's a pleasure to put a face to a voice, Mandy. Just getting sworn as a lawyer in New York in February, but my girlfriend is a psychiatrist. I appreciate your work on the front lines.
Oh, thank you very much.
And John, thank you very much for the super chat. That's fantastic. Let's see what we got. Chad Parsons. I enjoy the fact I don't know your politics, either of you. Depending on who you ask, I'm either I don't want to use the words. Either I'm the lib person or I'm the Trump person, but it always depends on who's accusing me of what. Which is always. What do you get? What do you get, Mandy?
I always get called the trumpeter or some leftist that hates Trump, and it's like I'm an old school Democrat. You freaks.
I've just grown tired of the trying to label people because, I think I have enough political views that are on both sides that it makes no sense to try to dichotomize a complex individual with one silly word. I missed something. I know I missed something right here. Hold on. Did I get? Okay, we got. Don't worry about coronavirus. It won't last long. It's made in China. All right.
That was a good comment. Good job, Jonathan.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Katie says, as a house divided, my husband very much left and me right. We both enjoy y'all's channels. To be honest, you both have pissed us off at times. Well, not pissed off, but have started heated conversations. Why would YouTube target y'all? I can tell you why. Look, I can tell you why they targeted Mandy. It's much easier for me to see why they would target someone like Mandy, where you're dealing with sassy humor and sensitive targets. And I mean sensitive not just in terms of like minors or sensitive issues, but politicians. And it is interesting. The more traction you get and the more of a following you get, the more relevant you become, the more influence you carry, and the more relevant you become. And so you get there with me. I don't think I have influence. I don't think I have controversy. I just think I touch subjects that just trigger something in the algorithm. I mean, I know that there's words in there. Epstein videos, regardless of what you say, they're going to get flagged. And incidentally, I had as much confirmed to me by YouTube that certain topics, it doesn't matter how you treat them, you're going to have issues. And then depending on how you treat some subjects, you'll get into bigger issues. But no, and I know with Mandy and the hog, I mean, it was context. It was the context. It was the minors. It was the conspiracy, the conspiracy theories that they were trying to tamp down on. And that was the perfect storm to get you, but shut down seems like the wrong sanction. Maybe.
Yeah. Well, I said there, the channel, it's weird. The channel kind of still is. It's when you go to it, Bombard's body language, it comes up. It just says it's not like the other terminated channels as far as it's just a little different.
You've never tried to have it revived? Like go talk to them now, and they have all that. I mean, they have to have it backed up so you could just have it.
But that's actually what it looked like. Like it's still there. Like they knew that this one, like I said, because I was getting 2 different emails from 2 different sides of YouTube.
Mandy, I mean, I don't know if you know this story of me, but I have a whole playlist for you, what I call YouTube chicanery. But one of my original deposition breakdown videos nothing objectionable in terms of content, but in terms of subject matter, just by virtue of what I was talking about. And it was the famous deposition of AJ. That video, got to a couple 100,000 views. Then it got demonetized, and then it got removed. And I got the strike for violating terms of service for hate speech. And I remember that because that really offended me. And then I filed a manual review, and it was confirmed. And then 2 weeks later, out of the blue, without even another manual review, it comes back onto the platform. Someone emails me and says, "Oh, by the way, I saw the video back again." And then 2 weeks later, it gets remonetized, and now it's been there because I don't know if a human saw it, but it's just it doesn't make sense. But certain subjects are just going to get it. But like the bureau, it's not even bureaucracy. The system you're dealing with, on the scale that you're dealing with it, it's almost impossible to function at 100%. And then you get these situations where,
well, I think not to interrupt you, but I want to say it was the CEO interview where she was saying that not exactly in this phrase, but basically these people that are reviewing videos are being red pilled. So
no, it's very interesting. I had never even thought of that when they're I think a lot of people are getting red pilled, to use the cliche, but that's what the internet is, incidentally, which is one of my theories as to why there is a push to control it, because democratizing information is good for the people.
Yeah,
we got a big super chat here. Mandy, do you have any relationship advice for people observant of body language and can't help notice the minor deceptions of partners? Do you recommend confronting them and addressing deceptions you notice in any particular way?
I would say anybody who's deceiving you, just to spare feelings, like to, I don't know, you don't look fat in that dress, those kind of, I would say overlook them. Just be thankful that somebody cares about your feelings and they don't want to hurt your feelings. If they're deceiving you because they're cheating on you, or they're stealing from you, manipulating or conning you, I'd call them out and walk away.
Now, I want to pull it back up because I have one. I'm fixated on projection. Sorry, I hit my mic. I'm fixated on the idea of projection. So when someone says, "Do you have any advice?" Well, Cooper, see truth. First of all, thank you for the super chat. Do you have any advice for people observant of body language and can't help but notice minor deceptions of the partners? There's projection based on my own psychological quackery, for whatever it's worth.
Something that you mentally want to see because you don't want to be with that person anymore.
Well, so there could be that aspect of it, something that you're seeing in somebody else because it's something that you would do, and therefore you assume somebody else would do it to you as well. Or
you probably shouldn't be in a relationship.
Say that again.
You probably shouldn't be in a relationship.
Well,
just cut it off, dude.
Or you're seeing it because you're fearful of it, and in which case it doesn't actually exist. You're seeing it. You're seeing something that doesn't actually exist, which is all these things that require not just the observation of the other person, but also like some deep reflection or deep introspection to make sure to ask yourself why you're seeing what you think or what you are seeing, or why you're also obsessing on what you might actually be seeing as there. My 2 cents is whatever. All right. Swift Justice. 2 of my favorite YouTubers live streaming together. This is awesome. Love you guys. Thank you very much, Swift Justice. I think I saw something else coming up here. Let me see here. I missed one. But so I do want to get into the idea of projection and the body language. Those who hate truth love lies. Mandatory carry. Thank you very much.
True.
Let's see this here. We got David Yokovlev. Mandy, have you seen the TV series Lie to Me, and what do you think about it?
I think I have seen it. I can't honestly tell you how many episodes I saw of it. I was working a lot back then when this series was on, so I didn't really have a whole lot of time of my life to watch TV. That's probably a good thing. But what I did see, it was good. The only part I can remember of, he's sitting on a desk and he's looking at a picture and reading body language, and I was just like, "Oh, that's okay." And I went back to work. So
I've never seen the show, so I don't know anything about it. Matthew Galta says, so this will make me sound crazy, but the evidence is all there. PsyOps control reality. There's proof of this and more on Weather War 101 PsyOps playlist. All right. Well, thank you for the super chat. Nobody's crazy. People can believe people can have beliefs that without necessarily being judged for those beliefs. And
right.
This is driving me, mad these days. It's like people cannot even tolerate the idea that other people have beliefs that they might not find plausible beliefs, which
well, I look at it, he's like, well, I'll take your information. And I can honestly see where this could be a real thing. And because some of it says, like the false flags, I mean, technically, yeah. And I'll take that as I'm going to put that in my keep an eye out for pile. As where the flat earthers, it's kind of like, maybe not.
No, it's a fair point. But even like I said, you can keep it in possibilities versus impossibilities, but they can believe it nonetheless. And so long as it doesn't hurt me, then that's what living in a pluralist society means. Sakionse Mandy, that is a heart. Love your work. You're reading the 2016 election.
Oh, yes. Yes, but I did do a lot of the debates. So, yeah.
Okay, very cool. We got, Tiger Tillis. Hanlon's Razor. Most of your YouTube troubles come from your incompetence and machine learning. Frei, I'll send you a Facebook message in further detail. All right, it's interesting. I have no doubt it comes from AI, and they put in words. And what's on the menu today that you can't talk about? Justice was one of them for a while. Any video, I've done a bunch of them, and I want to say they're objectively unoffensive in terms of delivery, but the topic was on YouTube's list that week. Okay, now I didn't miss anybody's super chat, and if I did, I'm going to apologize immensely. Okay, Mandy, what do we say to the idea that body language reading is it's not pure projection, but it's sort of like what's the word where when your prediction is right, it's great, and when you're wrong, you move on, and then you sort of focus on your next.
What is that? The confirmation bias? Is that what we're doing?
I want to say I've been using that word a lot lately. I don't know if it's exactly that, but it is that okay. When you're right, you're the hero, and when your prediction is wrong, forget about it. So, and then the other thing is like, what is being right or wrong in your body language reading? How do you know? How do you know when you're right versus wrong?
Well, I guess you don't know until it comes out. There was one that I remember I was wrong on, and that was the Prince of Saudi Arabia. What I saw, the movement was actually a tick. So I was like, these little things that you just don't know. He had a tick. I'm not actually used to watching people with ticks. It's something that's a learning curve. But once you figure it out, you go. But when it comes to, again, confirmation bias and looking at people, first you have to know yourself. If you know what your own belief system is and where you're going to be blind at, and I guess this would go to that feng shui, know yourself. Confront yourself on your own beliefs and why you look at people. Like if you distrust people, look at them and why do I distrust? Is it me or is it them? And be able to do that. If you can't do that, you don't have a prayer of ever reading body language because you're always going to see what you want to see. That's the best I can put with that one.
It is perfectly put, actually. Now, I've been told that I missed 2 super chats, so I do apologize. If somebody can tell me which ones I missed, and then I'll be sure to bring up. I can't bring up the name again, but I'll be sure to mention them. Or if someone can cut and paste the comment. Okay, now, so someone actually messaged me. This is the funny thing about the internet is like people tend to talk in a way that they wouldn't necessarily talk in person, but then when you engage 95% of the time, I think they realize and they actually only wanted a genuine interaction. And so someone said, Mandy's, I'm not saying this to try to get you angry. Body language reading is a fraud. It's a fake pseudoscience, and it's impossible to do. And so I responded like, it maybe, but it's also talking about training for body language might be like talking about training for becoming a pianist, or becoming a chess player. You can become a grandmaster with no formal training. You're not less of a grandmaster than somebody who's a grandmaster with formal training. But when it comes to body language, it might just actually be an art. And at the end of the day, it's not like you're trying to sell something that people don't want in terms of the service you offer. So where was I going?
I guess it would more or less, have you ever meditated? You ask somebody, have you ever meditated? And they don't quite understand what is meditation. It's like telling somebody you have to know yourself. Well, what is meditation? Clear your mind. And if you actually sit and try and clear your mind of all thought and focus, it's extremely hard. Most people cannot do it. It takes a lot of practice. And again, you have to know yourself. You have to be able to ask yourself these tough questions, look yourself in the eye, and be honest with yourself. And that's, to me, is the key to body language.
Okay, I got two good questions. One's coming from Jeremy Anthony. What's your favorite video that you've done?
Joe Biden.
Yeah.
That's the one. That's my favorite.
Well, dear God, I got to go find that one and watch it now. Do you? This will be a personal one also, but do you have any anxiety issues based on, like, from what you do? Do you have anxiety in general in terms of? I don't want to say ideations, but like in terms of what you do, the area in which you're creating content, in terms of upsetting people.
Oh, do I have anxiety towards it? I mean, sometimes I'm a little cautious, and that's just because of all the hell you go through with YouTube. It's kind of like, maybe I shouldn't say that. And sometimes I'll actually get scared because a particular person I'm afraid might actually hunt me down. Turkey's president actually does that to me at times. Be like, I'm not going to say that.
Yeah, okay. It's fair enough. Let's see who we got. We got the John Beck says, each of you, do you think singles should look for politically compatible partners or not, since there's a good chance you or them could change? You want to go first? You want me to, I know what I think about this. Thank you very much.
You go first, and then I'll go.
Okay. I would say well, first of all, it couldn't hurt, because religion and politics are the same thing. And I say the same thing. Religion is like politics. And if you were to marry someone who had fundamentally different beliefs on God or religion, and not that they're different, but rather they might be incompatible and might interfere with your beliefs, whether or not, it's not a question of judgment. It's just a question of avoiding conflict and leading to conflict. And 50% of marriages end in divorce. Yeah. So being compatible on fundamental things, I think, is a prerequisite. Politics can change, but I fundamentally think people are the way they are politically because of the design of their brain, and you're better off being compatible on the design of your brain than incompatible.
There was a scientist who did a study, and he was very politically correct about it. But in looking at what he was studying, it was pretty much people who generally are considered red don't take risk themselves or their family or their fellow man that they care about. And people who considered blue only think of self. So their risk they don't care if they hurt you, and they don't care if they hurt anyone else in their belief system. It's just me, 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 me. That's how I look at it. But as far as a relationship, yes, get somebody who's compatible with you. You're going to go through steps in your life that might change, what you believe or who you believe or anything of that nature. But that's just the roll of the dice you get. At least if you're compatible, you've got a chance to get through that stress.
Yeah, and I was going to say, like, people think like opposites attract, but there is a difference between having the yin to the yang versus trying to put like two opposite magnets, or I guess it would be two same magnets. The analogy fails, but there's the yin to the yang, and then there's just mixing oil and water. So
yeah, you don't mix oil and water, and the yin and the yang is where, you can both stand, where you're not going to be swayed by someone else. One will be swayed, one will be not. So you're each other's rock in certain areas.
Very, very beautifully put. The Real Bambuga says politicians are like diapers; they should be changed often and for precisely the same reason. Yeah, I heard another good one today. I can't remember right now, but I'll get it in a bit. Okay, so the question that I had, so that's the issue is the projection aspect of it. Oh, sorry, this was it. People ask you to do videos, and those who are going to want to discredit any of your observations, regardless of whether or not you can never find out if they pan out to be true or wrong, except with exceptions. But people are going to say that you can't actually determine anything from these high stress interviews or these high stress situations that you're necessarily analyzing, or that you're not watching enough to get enough of a baseline of the individual to have any sort of accurate assessments. How would you respond?
Well, there are some people, there's just not enough. Like that Lev Parnas thing. I mean, you guys only see like a few minutes. I get to watch the whole thing.
How long was that original interview?
It was 2 days worth, and I thought it was just a day.
Just a day.
That's what I thought. I thought it was just one evening of her interview, but I was like, oh, there's 2 of them. Oh my God. And it was like, go through what she asked him, and then skip through her, and then go through him again. So, yeah. So as soon as I figure out, because what you really want to see is you just want to see them go through more than just one emotion. If you've got someone who's in portrayal the whole time and that's the only emotion you see, that is extremely difficult. And the only thing you can attach to that is they're hiding. And if they're hiding that bad, you shouldn't trust anything that's coming out of their mouth anyways. But if you see someone who gives more than one emotion, you can go, now that we see some brain thought process. So we're starting to see some baseline there. And you can usually, pull something out of that. But, for anyone who's just all they see is portrayal, for anyone, I would say, just don't trust them. It's not good for you.
Explain for those who may not know, and I'm not 100% sure myself right now. Portrayal meaning what now?
Portrayal is acting. Is the simplest. They're acting out their movements. They think out every thought. They think out every movement. They're portraying. I want you to believe that I'm nice, so I'm going to portray I'm nice. I want you to believe I'm sad, so I'm going to portray I'm sad.
Have you used the term portraying to describe Justin Trudeau's behavior?
Yes.
Okay. I think that might be what was being triggered. I say triggered. Sorry, refreshed in my memory. All right, got Lynn Washington. Thank you very much, Lynn. Okay, sorry, get that out of here. Okay, so only portrayal, and so like, what are the you have your categories of behavior. So you have portrayal. How would you go with it? You have portrayal, not dishonesty, but rather deceitfulness.
Well, people, lying isn't just lying. Like when you have somebody in a relationship that's deceiving you, they're deceiving you because they don't want to hurt your feelings. They're deceiving you because they're conning you. They're deceiving you to manipulate you. There's many reasons to deceive somebody, and it's not always in a malice way. So if you've got someone who's in portrayal, they may be trying to comfort someone who's acting ridiculous when really they just want to tell them to knock it off. But you can't act that way. So I'm going to pretend to be sweet and loving to get you whatever situation you're in. There's many reasons to be in situations like that. And that's when the situation itself dictates why they're acting that way.
All right. And Jay Dunbar says, did I do this right? Jay, if that's what you meant to say, you done did it right.
Yeah, you did it.
Okay. So what do you do now? Actually, I know you have the YouTube channel and you have the school as well. What sort of services do you offer? What sort of products do you offer through Bombards?
Well, people keep asking me to read, like to do personal readings. I don't do personal readings. I'm not a Ouija board. That's what I sit there and think some people want. I'm not a Ouija board. We do the classes, we do tutorials, and the tutorials literally break down each thing we go over, which is where I really iterate. Right now I'm doing personalities, because the other part when you read somebody is as soon as you need to look and see what kind of personality you're dealing with, because that personality will help you in figuring out what is going on with the mind in these areas. Is this portrayal? And why is this portrayal here? And is this leading to a con man deception? Or is this leading down the path of a deception because they don't ever want to hurt your feelings? So right now we're doing the series of personalities, but we break down each of those.
Okay. We got one here asking, Shells S, thank you very much. She's asking, how do you tell if an accuser of assault is lying? I mean, I think, okay, I guess that would be, it's a broad question. How do you tell if anybody's lying? What cues do you look for? I mean, can you even answer the question?
Well, I guess the more stress they have, but it is really too broad. I wouldn't answer that, just for the simple fact that, what fits one person won't fit another.
It's an amazing thing, because I don't know, do you know if there are certifications? Are there recognized schools for reading body language, or is there, is it just basically psychology or psychiatry to some extent? And
I know there's a learning thing. They call themselves something, but basically it's a behavioral psychology. I just can't not remember for the life of me what they're called, because they keep emailing me this and I keep telling them no.
Well, because the amazing thing is, like, I'm thinking from my own just experience as a lawyer, after you've examined 20, 30, 40, 50 people, after you've met 150 clients and you get your stories out of your clients and you have your gut reactions, and then they either are confirmed or denied later on because of something that happens in the file, and then you sort of piece it all together over the life of your experience, and then you can sit down with someone and start asking them questions and know if someone is just lying through their teeth. And I don't know that having kids helped or made it less accurate, because kids are all over the place, and you can actually not always tell when a kid is genuinely lying, because sometimes they genuinely believe their own lie. But
yeah, that's true.
like, not to pull a George Costanza, but like, it's not a lie if you believe it. But even with adults, even when there's a level of self-deception that might actually lead them to believe that they did what they're telling you is the truth, even though it's not, you can still sort of piece it together, if not by body language, just by consistencies in the stories. So it really is just a question of having enough experience with interacting with people, and then applying your experience to the future and to other experiences. So
Well, it goes with the voice. What is it? There's somebody who reads voices. They can tell in your voice if you're doing something or not. And I think with me, it's kind of like, well, yeah, I kind of use that too. It's like you use all aspects of it. You piece it all together as a giant puzzle.
Well, and so that's actually the good point, is when you're doing the body language reading, it's not just looking at the body language with the audio off. It's not even looking at it with the audio on in a vacuum of known facts. It's all of it, which is where people I've seen people accuse you of being political, is you are interpreting the body language with the verbal language, with the demeanor, with your known facts of the state of politics, and it plays.
I've gotten testy on those. I can't make a liar truthful. What is wrong with you people?
Well, and so that's the other thing. It's like, when you deal with certain subjects, depending on who you're dealing with, we can sort of take a guess as to where you're going. And some people call that bias, and other people will just call it consistency, because you're dealing with the same subject. It's just a different day. Okay, we got one here. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say there was one person. I was like, well, look, I didn't say they were a liar today.
Well, okay, we'll get there. There's one with Trudeau that I want to get to. Robert Atkinson says, Mandy, I'm a big fan. It's nice to connect the face to the voice. Viva, you were cool as well. Thank you very much. Mandy, have you ever watched when Joe Rogan called out Stéphane Molineux? I was curious if Stéphane is lying.
Oh, I didn't even know that happened. So no, I haven't seen it.
I didn't know that happened either. And Robert, you don't need to respond to this by super chat, but if you could post a link or something, I would be curious to watch it. What was he calling out Stéphane on?
Yeah.
I've watched Stéphane enough also. I mean, it's interesting. There, I would say it's portrayal, not in necessarily deceitful way, but
he's trying to convince. So it's kind of, for me, I don't like portrayal because I like people to be natural. So it's kind of like, I don't like watching you. I don't need to be convinced. Your words should be it. So
if you're watching the impeachment, there's portrayal on both sides, but being a lawyer pleading in front of a judge is all portrayal, which is part of what I hated about it, is nobody likes a stuttering, fast-talking lawyer, and you have to slow it down, and you have to put on your show, and you have to put on emotions that people are expecting, even if you've been in the file for 5 years and don't actually have those reflexive emotions anymore. Real Bambuga says, Fort Jackson has a school called the National Center for Credibility Assessment that teaches a lot of this, as well as polygraph reading, FACS, etc. Well, polygraph reading also. So you listen to Howard Stern much?
No.
Okay, so he's got his resident polygraph reader. Whenever they do a lie detector test for the staff of Howard Stern, they've got this guy who comes in, and he's an expert. He's recognized because they have techniques, and they have figures, and they have sort of bases for comparison. But even that, there's a reason why courts generally, or oftentimes, at times, don't recognize polygraph tests even with the results, because it's still subjective to the point where it's not scientific. It's subjective and artistic to some extent, and it requires human interpretation.
Well, let's just say I had to take one to be a cop, and I lied.
Well, dear God, I want to know on what question. I don't know. Do you remember?
I remember.
Was it okay? I don't know the question. Was it on a on a behavioral thing or on a history thing? Something you wanted to lie about because you felt you'd get.
Oh, no, I don't mind. They asked if I had ever used drugs.
That's exactly the question I was thinking of. And okay, I don't want to know the answer because I don't want anyone to get in trouble. Okay, let's see what we got here. We got Denise Henson. You skipped my question. Applies. You skipped my question. Applies. Denise Henson. Where's the question? Post the question again. Don't put in another super chat to get it. And there it is. Okay, here we go. Sorry. Denise Henson. have had 3 polygraphs for job, all inconclusive. Well, now I am coming to some conclusions about Denise's ability to
Yeah.
either be
She's
deceitful
calm under
or
pressure, that's for sure.
got the jobs. I have PTSD, Navy, nervous around men. Could that be why? It's well.
Oh yeah, it could be.
So it's the polygraphs are based on they're based on sort of body reactions as well. So there can be certain involuntary reactions that can throw things off. Blood pressure, heart rate, sweating. It's they're not scientific, and I don't know in which courts they are actually ever automatically accepted as evidence, if any. I'm thinking.
I think as far as here, I think some areas will allow them to be used to warrant a search warrant. They failed a polygraph, so this gives us probable cause for a search warrant, and the judge will make that decision. I think that's about as far as a polygraph goes in this country, anyways.
I wouldn't. I mean, Denise, thank you for the super chat. And sorry I missed your question. I wouldn't put any weight in a polygraph at all, any more than I put in an IQ test. It might make you feel good. Like you pass a polygraph. Look at me, I'm innocent, but it doesn't prove that. Versus having a 150 IQ. Okay, so that's cool. Now, so you offer the services, and I'm not trying to sell your services. And if anybody accused me of shilling accuse away, I have no idea how you do it. People can sign up, and it's like their online virtual courses. They get a video.
Yeah, it's just go and watch the videos. They're just behind a paywall. They're just much more detailed. They slow it down and they break it down. And we always add.
Do they get to interact with you directly, or only via email?
We have a class. We have a class 6 months out of the year. Basically, we're avoiding holidays and birthdays.
Very cool. Joe Rogan 538 at about an hour. I'm going to screenshot this just so that I can remember it, because I'm not going to. Thank you. Okay. Interesting. Deb Young, no comment, but thank you very much. Okay, now, Trudeau.
I'm just curious. Sorry, I'm just curious about what the controversy is.
Oh, okay. So hold on. Let's see. Robert, if you can, don't do a super chat again. Just put in the comments. And what did he say? What did he call him out on about his wife?
Yeah, that would be really interesting, because I got my own theories, but
have you gotten into any trouble with any of your Trudeau videos, or your humorous nickname for him?
Tampon boy.
I wasn't going to say it.
I don't know if anybody remembers, because it was the old YouTube channel that had it. Why I came up with that name. It was like the first meeting of him and Trump, and they were leaving. And I sit there and just made a joke. Trump goes to go over there, grab him, and send him off the stage. And he's, "Come on, boy, let's go change a tampon." So,
hold on, who said that?
I said it as if Trump had said it.
Okay. Yeah, no, so I'm wondering, like, if that type of rhetoric in the videos gets them in trouble. Have any of your Trudeau videos run? Oh, first of all, I'm sorry. Is Body Language Ghost a monetized channel?
No, it's not. It's demonetized. Just like he's looking into monetizing it again, but not right now, because it'll just be under a microscope. And you know what? You can't really do much if we're not making any money off of it anyway. I mean, what more punishments can you give?
Deb Young says, skip my question too, running out of money. Deb, don't do a super chat. Just post the question again. I'm going to get to it right now. So I'm very sorry. See, I need to figure out some technical sides here. I don't like mods because I'm not power hungry. I don't want to make anyone responsible for things that I consider to be fundamental. And so I'm nervous to even delegate that, because I don't want to have to be in a position where someone else could be blamed for something that I am angry about. So Deb Young, just post a comment to get the question again. So I'm doing this and looking at the side, looking at questions, looking at super chats, and I miss stuff. So, and how's the business going, Bombards? Like, do you have I imagine you have a substantial interest in the school?
Yeah, we do have subscribers. It steadily grows. I mean, it's not like, oh my God, we're doing great. We're not that big, I guess, because the YouTube following when he got there is just, not to be mean to people, but most people are lazy. They like YouTube. It's easy. It's simple. Whereas this is another step in process. It's not an app, so it's not quick and easy or on your phone, which that's the drawback that you have when you have your own site, is you have to go by the natural way people flow, and they like easy.
Well, easy. And I imagine not to be cynical or superficial, but there's no official certification. There's nothing that they can put up on a wall afterwards and say, "Look what I got." This is actually purely for life, coping with life or navigating life.
Yeah, well, there's that we do the $10, which is a tutorial, and then we do a $5, which is just crime series. We look at crime. It's like no politics at all. We just look at crime and dive into serial killers and all kinds of fun stuff.
I don't know why that would be. Yeah, it's a weird world when politics stirs more controversy and emotions than actual crime. Okay, Deb Young wanted us to talk about the Christine Blasey Ford. Please, LOL. Okay.
Please.
First off, so that one. Now, I imagine you had to have taken flack for that. In your comment section, it looked pretty clean because I watched it again today. But I imagine you had to have gotten a substantial amount of hate for that.
Yeah, they were very nice to that one. I think that was demonetized. I don't remember because it wasn't mine, and he doesn't really tell me because he doesn't want me to stress on it. I think that got taken down by YouTube actually. It did get on BitChute, and it really went far there. That was the one that shut down our website because so many people wanted to watch it. It was just flooded. And so we just sent a link from BitChute to that, and poor BitChute, they could barely handle it as well.
Well, it is amazing. So I'm sure it was still on YouTube. I watched it again this morning. And, the funny thing is like what we call body language reading, it seems intuitive, and maybe I'm oversimplifying it, but it seems intuitive. And it seems like the reason why that video in particular and others get so much traction is because you are verbalizing what everybody else is feeling, but doesn't necessarily know how to put their fingers on. And people have their when you disinterest people politically and identity wise, you're tapping into something that is a sort of a sentiment they have, but they don't know why they have it.
Yeah.
Which is why I just think with the Blasey Ford, just given the subject matter, especially given what identity politics is today, you being a woman and not necessarily,
I'm not blonde.
your assessment was not one was not one believe all victims type thing, and it was harsh.
I looked at that one when I was watching her with that one. I kind of looked at it in a way that that you're going to sit there and say things that's going to make people mad. Because one, you're going against the left. So you're already there going to be pissing them off. So if you're going to be pissing them off, at least point out exactly what people don't really understand what they're seeing, nor does the culture during that time, because political correctness is still ingrained. It's really come down a lot, but then it was still ingrained. So you couldn't say anything like, she's giving you pretty pose. She's manipulating you. Because victims don't manipulate. They don't try to give you pretty pose. That's not something you're supposed to say. There must be something else she's doing in order for her to be deceptive. So you point out stuff that they're afraid to look at. That's how I see it.
Yeah, well, it's I think you pointed out stuff that people may be afraid to look at, or they might appreciate but be afraid to verbalize. Or they might appreciate but not even be able to verbalize just because they literally don't have the words to put into to express what they know is there or what they see is there. Okay, it's interesting. Did you do one of Kavanaugh's speech? I don't think if you did, I didn't see it. But when he gave his,
he was boring. He was boring. I think I mixed. No, I think he was separate. I think I actually did a separate one of it, but it was really short. Because there's not much. If someone's being honest, I mean, it's like, yeah, he's not lying. Yep, he's really irritated because he's been lied about. Yep, how many times can you say that? I mean, there's nothing new. So I remember I did him. I was just really short. Yeah, he's irritated. He's been accused of something he didn't do. These are the markers of someone who's honest. It's normal for this behavior to be, I don't remember what I called him, but to bite back, basically. Of course, you're going to bite back. That's a normal human behavior. And to just explain that, but I didn't have to do it really long with him. He wasn't a liar.
Well, I mean, that's the other interesting thing is like where confirmation bias, this would be pure confirmation bias, where he overreacts with anger. That's something who would do that type of thing would react like that. He doesn't overreact and he's too passive. oh, he's not taking it seriously. That's someone who would do something like that. That's how they would react. And I remember I had friends on both sides on Facebook, everyone with their own opinions. I said, you would have said that regardless of what he did, because you're going from your belief to interpreting what you see, where someone might look at you and say, okay, fine, this is what you believe, so necessarily this is how you're going to interpret it. And then it's just a question of, at the end of the day, who has the actual more accurate assessment of an authentic reaction. And that's where I guess people can follow you and see if you're right. If you're wrong more often than right, it'll catch up with you in the scrutiny of what internet is, and internet is forever. So when you mess up, it's going to be there.
Yeah, I remember when I had my YouTube channel, and I had this lady, and I didn't even know she existed until her followers came over to troll me. You're stealing her videos. I'm sitting there, who am I stealing from?
Who do you remember who it was?
It was, I don't remember her name. I don't remember what her handle was, but she was doing body language videos. So I went over to go, your followers are coming over here and harassing me. Then I never confronted or called her out. I just kind of left it alone. Is that it'll work out the way it'll work out. People will either trust me or they'll not trust me. And I watched her videos. And you want to talk about confirmation bias. It's the first time I ever saw another body language person. And she was been there longer than me. But it was really, you could see the bias. Everything was, if she didn't like them, they always were deceptive. It didn't matter who they were. It reminded me of the Janine Ford. She did a body language reading on Putin, called him a super liar. Like, he's not lying. I mean, he does lie, but at this time he's not lying. I mean, dude. And that was kind of like the people that you find. And I just was like, that you find those people all the time. I did got lost off my track.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we got Jay Tronics. Quick rundown of the Prince Andrew interview. I think that one is obvious enough that you don't even need to have any experience.
I didn't know.
This is where, like, again, not things that I would touch on because it's just not. I might. I'm nervous about even just touching certain subjects if I have nothing genuinely novel to add. But as a lawyer, when someone can remember certain details and then not remember other details, and then having such specific answers to questions, almost as though the questions were known in advance, and it's implausible to the point of laughability. Where, okay, you don't need to read any body language; you just need to know that I don't believe anything that's coming out of this. So where do we go from here? Yeah. I don't need to know that he was telling the truth here versus here. But yeah, overall, not going to believe what I'm seeing right now. There's a reason also why I don't think Queen Elizabeth is a body language reader, but they certainly disappeared his public presence after that. I think everybody read that one the way it came off.
Son, you screwed up.
We got Max Pellis says, big fan of both you guys. Any thoughts on the future of Clapper, Brennan, and Spygate? Not sure if already addressed. It hasn't been addressed. I mean, you want to field this one?
You know what? I sit there and this is just my hypothesis. There was a Twitter feed of Trump's Twitter feed. And what they did is they took the first words of the top of his post.
Oh, yeah.
All the way down.
I saw that.
And it was this song. I don't even remember what the song was, but Never Gonna Bring Me Down or something. Oh, it's a very old song. It was actually a pretty good song too. But I was like, okay. And I remember that day because I thought, why are we talking about laundry? And I couldn't get over that. And then I was like, oh my God, this man literally could be Q. He just put the words of a song in his post. That has to be some OCR recognition that pulls tweets to actually spell it. It can't. I don't think it's deliberate. I think that has to be. There has to be something that's pulling the tweets based on word recognition. So that I don't even know. I didn't check to see if they were chronological. If they were, then it would. No, they were in order. They were in order. And the weird thing is, most of them came from people he followed, like Pence. And who's the other one? Pompeo. I was like, did you get them to tweet this?
When you say like magic has their scientific magic can be broken down into categories. You have magic, mechanics, sleight of hand, and mathematics. That's magic, and it has to be explained by one of those.
Yes.
We got P. Baxter. P. Baxter says, based off of Nancy and Adam's eyes and the direction they were looking at, I can tell they know Trump will win 2020. Love your stuff, Viva. Thank you very much, P. Baxter. I watched, and I'm not sure if I'm going to do anything about it because I think people are just fatigued about it. But Adam Schiff, did you watch Adam Schiff's closing arguments? It was a 9-minute video.
I got to like the first day, and then I went into the kitchen and just ranted. That idiot is still windbagging it.
It's if you watched him today, like it's an amazing thing. We're not about being a body language reading expert, but where you know when you're being manipulated based on having met people who manipulate you, the way you see him manipulating you now. And when he spoke, it's not a partisan thing. It's actually not a partisan thing. It's a technique thing where they say, if you want to be a good pleader, a good litigator, this is what you have to do. And I may do the video tomorrow anyhow. I probably should, but where he started off by saying, I don't know if you saw where he says, okay, he did it. Trump did it. Okay. The question is, do we really need to remove him from office? So anybody who watched it would know what I'm talking about. And it's not a partisan thing. It's a technique for pleading effectively. It's an amazing thing. Set aside the most complicated, disputed fact and take it for granted and then move on to a simple one. And then never actually have to come back to addressing the complicated one. I say it's Parkinson's law and mundanity again, but watching it, it's why I hate lawyers. I mean, it's actually why I hate lawyers, because you never, when you have a lawyer, they're a partisan sort of arguing for a side, and they're going to employ these tactics. And the more convincing, the better the lawyer. But when you know the game that they're playing, the more irritating it is to watch, and you can pinpoint it, but it's convincing to some extent to a great many people. But he did that, and his technique of saying, you know this, and you know that, and you know this. And I didn't count how many times he said, but this tactic of trying to convince you that you know something. Whereas if you then say, well, I don't actually believe that. And then in denying what he says, if you do that, then you might be dumb. And then you have to agree to believe it in order to save face with your intelligence. It drove me crazy. Sorry, that was my rant.
I think the saving grace to that is by that time they were all asleep.
Those who were left were asleep. It looked like, by all accounts, it was half a room. But I watched a Republican's lawyer pleading as well. When you have the facts, this might reveal what some people are going to call partisan bias. But there's facts, and there's a good case, and there's a bad case, and I think one party has a better case than the other. But even their tactics were still annoying to watch. It's this. Yeah,
it was like, thank God this is only 2 hours. Still freaking dull.
2 hours. We'll see what happens Monday, but it's painful for me to watch. I watched as much as I had to do the live stream with Phil Barnes, because I wanted to, not Phil Barnes, sorry, Robert Barnes, because I wanted to make sure I knew what I was talking about. But okay, we got Jonas Traber says, been watching your channels for years. It feels really peculiar to see you speak instead of just hearing it.
Oh, thank you.
It's always shocking to put a face to a very distinctive voice. It's especially, you've known someone and you feel that you've known them for years, and then you finally get a face. I think the first time I saw your face was the 1-minute video that you did on the update of having your channel taken down.
Yeah.
Okay. Did we miss anything, Mandy? Is there anything that you think I should have talked about?
No, I guess we can, if you want to, we can go into generations. I'm in the middle of writing a book. I'm thinking about generations and how that's going to affect us, but we don't have to speak about that.
Hold on. I do want to, actually. I just saw someone put up a super chat. El Rojo Grande says, as someone who's been watching you for a while, you've really been putting out top-notch content as of late. Question for your guest. Has she ever used her skills to her advantage, such as when buying a car or similar? Do you use your observational skills in order to manipulate or predict other people's behavior for your benefit? El Rojo, thank you very much for the super chat.
Oh, there was a salesman that I just kind of let him know, like, for a car. And then there was the salesman for this house who was trying to make me feel bad. I said, you know what? You're not manipulating me.
I see what you're doing.
My husband's taking the phone away. I'm not done.
Amazing. Okay, now generations. What were you elaborate?
Well, we're just going to stick to this century's generations, and we will go and say that the other centuries of generations, because tech and industry wasn't there, that happened slower. Okay. And so I was sitting there, and you go through the generations that have happened in this century. The industrial age happened. Things started picking up pace. It's faster. You've got the generation that raise the me generation, the boomers. Yes, my mother's generation. And those of you who do not know the boomers and you're getting all offensive because of the boomer remark, you look at and hear, not look at, but listen to the music that of the children that they raised. Runaway Train. I don't know if anybody remembers that song. And then there's
Aerosmith, right?
I don't think it was
Oh,
Aerosmith. It was Runaway Train,
oh,
never going
oh
back.
God. Someone's gonna get it before I can get it, and it's gonna drive me crazy that I didn't get it.
And then there's the other song, To My Mother. I don't even remember who did that one. To My Mother, To My Father. I don't remember the name of that one, but those were really popular top songs. And that just tells you literally where the mentality of my generation and everybody in it, where's that? At least in this country. Old Asylum. There you go. Soul Asylum. That's right.
100%. Jeez, that's old music now. We're officially old, Mandy.
We're officially old. But that was the music for at least America, and being brought up by the me generation. I mean, kids were running the streets. You had latchkey children were running the streets all hours of the day. People are going, well, I didn't have to come home until the street lights come on. It's because your parents didn't care. The stories of children being kidnapped and abducted because of the child trafficking that apparently was going on back then that they didn't really want to talk about nor believe was going on. The runaway epidemic during that time of how many children were running away from home. And they say it's running away, but we really don't know what. Either they were running away. Oh,
I'm just bringing up. Thanks, Superman. Sorry, that interrupted. I should know not to do that in the future. Okay, thank you, Superman. Sorry.
But that was really high back in that era. And so then you sit there and go, okay. And we parents, we've turned into the helicopter generation. We're raising our children in a bubble. And now they're saying that our children are going to be the most conservative generation ever. And it kind of goes with the patterns that has happened in past centuries, but it was slower. And I fear that our children are going to raise children that are going to be really oppressed, I think, in the terms of Puritans. You'll have a generation that will become so strict, so conservative, that they'll go backwards instead of being loving and kind to the outside, to people that aren't in that normal realm that they're used to, that they'll crack down on it so hard that it will be oppressive to some people. And I think the only saving grace to that is social media.
Well, and actually, it was exactly what I was going to say. Not social media, but rather the internet, where at the very least you'll have some exposure to the impure stuff. But you could never have the same level of Puritanism because you could never block out the negative influences. But I do. Look, I mean, I've got kids, I've got nieces and nephews, and I can see the shift to conservatism, even in families where with the utmost of liberalism in the parents. And on the one hand, I think it's a product of access to information. It's a product of actually seeing things in real time. But I would be less fearful of it going back to the era of Puritanism. It's just my question is going to be, you're going to have your pendulum swinging to conservatism, but you're going to have the diametric opposite in terms of those who are not swinging back being pushed more to the extreme of liberalism for whatever it's going to look like in 20 years. And not that one's better than the other, but it seems the world is getting more polarized. And so that you're going to have one swing back, but then more polarized in the other direction.
Yeah. Like it comes kind of halfway into the middle and then it swings all the way out that way. And then it comes back to the middle, then swings back out to the other way. And I think if they do social media right, I mean in the sense of where they don't hinder voices are allowed, so that one, you get the exposure to empathy of, this person likes, the same sex. It's not the end of the world. Leave them alone. They're not going to turn into douchebags or pedophiles. And that's kind of what unfortunately is happening, because the nuts, and we'll call them the nuts, are uplifting these pedophiles and say, well, they just have free love. That's where you get the mind that's going to crack down on it and blanket everything. But if they do free speech with the social media and the internet, and they get to see that empathy, that there are normal people that just have things that are outside the normal range, I'm hoping that actually makes that pendulum swing less far to the extremes. and it stays kind of normal. I wouldn't expect it to be in the middle completely,
Well,
but the swing is wildly.
interesting. And someone did mention right at the beginning when we were talking about mental illness, where that there is no normal and everyone is on something of a spectrum of functionality versus dysfunctionality. But yeah, I mean, it is interesting. But I think the pendulum will stop swinging back with almost like an anti-Newtonian force. It's going to stop swinging back more than when it swung, when the media has sort of lost its grip or lost its incentive to just exaggerate the exceptions in order to make the exceptions look like the rule. I think that's the bottom line of what's happening today, is that people are being brought up with like the idea of these exceptional circumstances becoming the rule, these exceptional incidents being the rule, and then I call it some sort of trauma. But
yeah, well, you need a free internet. You need to be able to voice it, but you also need rules that go with that either. And I always think that if you have a social media, you need to make it kid friendly. And I don't mean like censor it, like, oh, you can never talk about this, but it's just like the 4 deadly sins that you shouldn't have. No porn. You don't put up live murders. Those are prosecutable. Porn should be prosecutable to children too, because that's lewd behavior. This is just normal. You don't sit there and put your crimes on there. It's just the normal stuff you wouldn't put on there.
Incidentally, it was what the Communications Decency Act was supposed to govern on in terms of giving immunity to websites. It's like, yeah, do your best to eliminate that, and you'll be fine. And it's sort of shifted its way into curating the content on YouTube, well above and beyond what is otherwise illegal in the real world.
Yeah, they need to, it's like, yeah, we do that, but the free speech has to be there, and do not oppress people because you don't like what they're saying. But, let it organically, people will build up natural hubs. There are hubs, people can be natural hubs, and it's like everybody comes there and they've got the mixes in their DNA, and I'm using that metaphorically, to make this person a hub, and then everybody goes to the hub and it branches out. And you can have that when you have an organization do it, like CNN, it's an artificial hub, and they use artificial means like money to push these ideas out. And that hub cannot survive without the money. But the hubs that are organically done survive with or without money.
They survive on the validity of the ideas and the concepts that are at the core of the hub, 100%. Okay, I'm gonna burn through. Not burn through. I'm gonna go through these super chats before I forget them. Supperman, thank you very much. I didn't mean to bring that up one earlier. We got the real Bambunga says, don't forget to mention Dr. Spock. I give the eye of confusion, but in terms of potentially reading kids, maybe. Now I want to make sure not to forget. Okay, we got the last one was Dr. Spock was the question. A lot of super chats here that I have to address. Okay, let me just. Oh boy, got to figure out a more efficient way than this. Okay, so don't forget to Dr. Spock. That was the last one. Okay, now, bringing it down, I saw another color here. It was Sadwings Raging. I always encourage leftist lunatics to speak out. Rational people see how crazy they are. Well, not to polarize politically. Sunlight is the greatest disinfectant. When people share their thoughts, setting aside the obvious illegal, threats to life and bodily harm and physical harm, yeah, open discourse is the best thing. And it's funny, I remember I studied Noam Chomsky in philosophy 20 years ago. And I remember taking issue with his stance on freedom of speech when I was 20 and saying some ideas are just so offensive, they should not have a platform. And not offensive in the form, just in the content. And it's funny how 20 years later, I sort of appreciate exactly what he was saying. That's the only way to let people address, assess, and I want something that rhymes. Address, assess, and either agree with or disregard. But denying it lends credibility to it. Or I say, denying their ability to express it lends credibility to it.
Yeah, because you just send people over there. They want to go find out what they can't see.
Yeah, and then they have to. They reflexively think there has to be a reason for which people are not letting me see this. It's sort of like the Streisand effect of censorship. Sedway, thank you very much for that. That's good. It's a good one. Do either of you believe that moderate liberals will become the new centric conservatives?
I am.
This one, I don't know what. Oh, so say what you just said again. You said you are.
Yeah, I like to think that I am. I do believe there has to be a social system out there because not everybody's going to make it. no matter how hard you try. You've got an economic system that is based off a monetary that, doesn't reward just hard work. You have to go and earn something. I can't just go outside and grow my own food. I have to own the land, and you have to work to own it. So not everybody's going to make it. It's not like the olden days where you just found a plot of land that was empty and created.
All right. We got Mobius Loop says Department of Fear. I think that was probably in reference to media, if that's what I'm going to go with, because that's how I feel about them sometimes. Max C. As a 26-year-old conservative with helicopter parents, I plan on being strict with technology. Children need freedom, but they also need to be disconnected from the internet for as long as possible.
I agree with that one, Max. I agree with
and
that
Max,
one.
I'll tell you, as a 40-year-old who my parents were not helicopter parents, but I'm the youngest of 5, so they were anti-helicopter parents. I think they were sending me on a bus when I was 8 years old alone, but
Yes.
different time, different era. But whether or not they cut me off from the internet, I found my ways. I was never cut off from anything, but I still found ways of getting into trouble. And I think you can cut it off or not. My philosophy thus far as a parent is to have the open discussions. If I find something grotesquely offensive, there'll be maybe a punishment. But like we listen to Howard Stern. We have to turn Howard Stern off when it gets to certain subjects. But the swearing, exposing to stuff, it's mostly the sexual stuff on Howard Stern that's just obscene for anyone under a certain age. But we watch Dumb and Dumber. We watch movies where I think I believe in exposing them to it, letting them know what's right and wrong about it and what not to repeat. But I guess we're sort of like we're in the sort of the gray zone of the spectrum of what we both agree on. But yeah, I mean, it's disconnecting is definitely something that I should probably work on more myself. But I how often do you disconnect, Mandy?
Well, they get in the evening time, except for the weekend. They can pay. I make them pay. They earn fake dollars and they have to pay for their internet.
It's good, but my kids don't work for fake dollars anymore. They demand real dollars, and we don't have them. So it's a short discussion. Max, thank you very much for the super chat. We got Larry Anthony. Larry, thank you very much. He says, enjoying the intellectual chat tonight. It's amazing. And Mandy, we will wind it up because it's been 2 hours and 6 minutes, but it's been fascinating, and I love it. And I had I see the comments coming in. Larry Anthony, thank you very much again. Thank you. Well, I saw the comments coming in like, don't give a platform to people. I was like, what world do we live in? Oh, that was what someone else said. You're endorsing her and her. I'm not even going to say what this comment said in general because it doesn't matter, but you're endorsing this person and all that they believe in. And I just want to say, having someone on the channel is not an endorsement. And in fact, if she is guilty of all of these things that you're charging her of, let people see it. No one's going to even know that that's true if we don't have this discussion. But the idea, like, and Joe Rogan's going through it now also, just guilty by association for having discourse with people who have ideas that you might vehemently disagree with. It's this. There's
oh my God, she didn't believe what I believe. Holy cow!
No, it's like shut them down. Just shut them down, and there's going to be a backlash against, and a big backlash in the next generation who are going to say, don't tell me who I can talk to, and don't tell me what I can think, and don't tell me who I can associate with. I hope there's going to be this backlash because it's high time for it. What do we got here? We got the John Beck. Current age is like age of monopolies, Carnegie, Morgan, etc. We need to break monopolies and restore fair play. Agree or no? Mandy, what do you say?
Yeah, there's monopolies. I mean, look at Google. That's a monopoly. Facebook's a monopoly. It's a monopoly all over the place.
Well, and it's funny, but it's a weird thing. Monopolies wouldn't be bad if they wouldn't exercise a disproportionate amount of control, censorship. But that's what then monopolies are monetizable and they become susceptible of corruption. It's just the nature of the way things work.
Corruption. What is it? Power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yeah, and as I was falling asleep last night, I said, like, I thought to myself, discourse is honest until there becomes an interest in the discourse, and then it becomes interested discourse, which becomes dishonest. It was much more succinct when I was falling asleep. I have to go see. I wrote it down on a note somewhere. Okay, let's give it another 2 minutes. If I missed any super chat, someone please tell me because I feel guilty all night if I discover it in the middle of the night. Any last questions that we didn't get to? Power tends to corrupt. I would remove the tends to. Power corrupt. Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Freedom of speech is for others with whom you disagree with, not for those you agree with in yourself. Agree or no? By definition, I mean, we've even said it in Canada.
Yeah, that's true.
we say it in Canada, but we don't necessarily implement it, is that it's necessarily for the ideas that are most offensive.
Mhm.
Our courts say this, and then we give stand-up comedians $35,000 fines for making fun of people. Mandy, I don't know if you heard about that. The Mike Ward decision.
No, I have not heard that one.
Oh, it's
but it doesn't actually surprise me these days.
We have a human rights tribunal that issued a $35,000 civil fine to a stand-up comic who made call it objectively offensive or insulting jokes about a 16-year-old kid who suffers from Treacher-Collins syndrome, but the kid himself was a celebrity. I'll flip you the link afterwards. It has to go to the Supreme Court, and they have to establish either a new precedent or confirm that.
If they do that, they'll kill all comedy.
Ew, this as it is. we're nervous in Canada. Okay, let's see. That was phenomenal, Mandy. Nothing else you want to say before we head out?
No, come check us out. That's all I can say. Come check us out.
You're gonna keep doing it.
Yep, keep doing it.
Okay,
keep trudging along.
What I was gonna say. So website is Bombards. What is it? What's your website?
Bombardsbodylanguage.com.
Channel is Body Language Ghost, and I think everybody knows who your channel is because it's great. Jay Dunbar says monopolies only have power if the government protects them. There's a reason Facebook is okay with regulations after they have already grown. This is true. Thank you very much for the super chat. I saw one more down here. Freedom of speech. Oh no, that wasn't the right one. For the vegan dog treats. you know when dogs won't eat it. Although my dog did eat an avocado today, which was. I Googled it. It seems it's okay to the extent they don't choke to death on the pit. Thank you very much for the dog treats, for the vegan treats. Real Bambuga says, freedom of speech is how the government tricks us into publicly announcing that we're their enemies because we think it's safe. Quite possible, but that's until the enemies, get elected and then they have a new enemy. It's the circle of life.
That's what Virginia's doing. They're going to outlaw saying anything against the government. I
saw that. Someone sent me the link, and I am probably going to have to dissect or at the very least explain that legislation. Let me see, Divided States of America. Okay, that's thank you, Divided. Okay, I just saw something more here. Okay, after this, really gonna go 3 more minutes. Common Sense sent this already, but happy to support you guys. It's so fantastic to see you together. I sent Viva a vid introing him to you, Mandy. I'm a huge fan of you both. Keep up the great work. Common Sense, thank you very much. And
thank you, Comet.
And Eric Hunley, if I can plug him, Unstructured Podcast,
yes,
who put us in touch with each other. And Mandy, I'm glad you accepted because I enjoy discussing things. Respectful discussion with anybody, I'm always game for. So I'm also glad to have gotten to know who you are, and I'm glad people got to know who you are as well.
Well, me too. It was a nice conversation. That was good.
After I hit the end broadcast, we'll talk for a bit. But everybody, thank you very much for tuning in, and enjoy the interwebs.
Thank you.